Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. The night before my wedding, I received an anonymous message. I opened it to find incriminating photos of my fiancé and best friend in bed together. I confronted my fiancé, who defiantly sneered, "Grace, you've been used up for a long time. You should be grateful I'm willing to take you on." The door suddenly burst open, and a tall man entered slowly with bodyguards. Without a word, he brutally beat my fiancé, calmly saying, "Grace is my woman. Have you got a death wish treating her like this?" After I tucked Lily into bed, my phone screen lit up. I tiptoed to close the door and open the message. In several group chats Marcus and I shared, a series of high-definition photos of a man and a woman entangled popped up instantly, accompanied by a video. The images showed a man and a woman completely undressed. The man was my fiancé, Marcus, and the woman was my best friend, Sarah. The group chat exploded. "What the hell? Who sent these? This has to be fake, right? The video can't be faked. Look at their tattoos. Marcus, Sarah, what the? How can you do this to Grace?" "Exactly. Marcus, you're getting married tomorrow. What's this all about?" The sender's profile picture was unfamiliar, as if it had appeared out of nowhere. My fingers trembled as I scrolled across the phone screen. Marcus wasn't a playboy. On the contrary, he disliked lavish parties. When he proposed, I thought having such a companion for the future would be nice. And Lily also needed a reliable father, so I agreed. Sarah was my family's nanny's daughter. After her mother passed away, she was raised in our home like a half-daughter to George and Eleanor. I never imagined the two of them would get together behind my back. I composed myself, got dressed, and drove to find Marcus. He was having his bachelor party in a private booth at a cafe, and I spotted Sarah immediately. When I walked in, everyone fell silent for a moment before enthusiastically greeting me. Marcus, clearly still unaware, frowned. Andy asked, "What are you doing here?" I pointed to his phone. He opened it, and his face instantly darkened. "When did this start?" I asked. A flicker of impatience crossed Marcus's eyes. "Since you've seen it, then it's fine. Sarah is the one I love." Sarah stood up, her voice tearful. "Grace, I'm so sorry. I truly love him. Look at them. A cheap romantic drama playing out." I scoffed. "If you two are so deeply in love, then Marcus, why were you going to marry me?" The moment the words left my mouth, I already knew the answer. Because of Sarah's background, the Hay family would never approve. He didn't want to break it off, so he continued the charade, making a fool of me. Sarah grabbed my arm. "Grace, I was wrong. I promise you I'll never see Marcus again. I'll leave Newport City tomorrow and never appear before you, too." I shoved her hand away, remaining silent, but recoiled as if she'd been pushed with great force, falling backward, looking incredibly fragile. Marcus panicked, pulled Sarah into his arms, and snapped at me. "Grace, whatever your problem is, deal with me. Don't make things difficult for Sarah." I just found it amusing. He was already protecting her. "Marcus, I think we should call off this wedding. May you two lovers be happy together. As for this mess, whoever caused it can clean it up." I turned to leave, but Marcus' cold scoff came from behind me. "And what about you, Grace? How much better are you? In my eyes, you're not even worth one of Sarah's fingers. 5 years ago, you were messing around in the city's elite circles in Westgate City. And not long after you came back, you were pregnant. Everyone knows you sold yourself to save Evergreen. Too bad the guy didn't want you or the baby. Grace, you've been used up for a long time. You should be grateful. I'm willing to take you on. Even if the engagement is off, it should be me saying it." Smack. I slapped him without hesitation. So that's how Marcus had always seen me. I thought that even if it was a business arrangement, we could still be respectful to each other, even without love. I never imagined he had already nailed me to a pillar of shame. The door suddenly opened. A tall man walked in, grabbed Marcus by his collar, and without a word punched him. Marcus stumbled and fell, spitting blood, and cursed, "Who the hell dares hit me?" He quickly stopped cursing as the man landed punch after punch. The people in the private booth at a cafe were successfully escorted out by bodyguards. Sarah refused to leave, screaming, "Stop hitting him." She glared at me. "Grace, do you want him to beat Marcus to death?" I wanted to step forward, but the man said, Stay put. Sarah tried to rush over but was intercepted by a bodyguard. She shrieked, "Who are you? How dare you hit him?" The man stopped, his gaze sweeping over her before settling back on me, a faint smile on his lips. "Grace is my woman. Have you got a death wish treating her like this?" Boom. My vision blurred and distant memories flooded back. After my family's decline, I came to Westgate City alone to make a living. To find financial support, I frequented various social gatherings. The meeting was unexpected. 10 years hadn't changed him, but he had grown more composed and reserved. Still, his eyes remained as deep as a cold abyss when they swept over me. I took a deep breath, secretly relieved that few people here knew me. If this were Newport City, everyone in our circles knew that Julian and I were at odds. This feud started in childhood, and as we grew older, we became increasingly estranged. I circulated through the venue. Many people were interested in me, but as soon as they heard my intentions, they quickly distanced themselves. Just then, a man in a suit walked over and handed me a key card. "The gentleman is waiting for you in the penthouse suite." Gritting my teeth, I decided to take a desperate gamble. In the suite, Julian was sprawled languidly on the sofa, lifting his head to look at me, his voice devoid of emotion. "You're short on cash." I nodded. "Barry, how much?" $200 million. "I can help you." I looked up abruptly, meeting his gaze, then asked, "What are your terms?" He watched me with interest, appraising me from head to toe before slowly answering, "Spend 3 nights with me." I pressed my lips together, thinking this was probably karma. The tables had turned, and now he finally found an opportunity to humiliate me. "Grace, 3 nights, $200 million. My offer is more than fair." I agreed. The memories of those few days were a blur. I surrendered completely to him, my mind blank, able only to cling to his shoulders for support. On the last night, I shivered beneath him. "Julian, how long will you keep this up?" He leaned down to kiss me, mumbling, "I'll get bored tomorrow." I took his words to heart and quietly left at dawn the next day, being discreet. I left a note on the bedside table with my bank account number. Julian was a man of his word. After I returned to Newport City, George and Eleanor happily informed me that Evergreen was saved. They asked where I'd found the funds, but I dared not tell the truth, only saying it was an old friend from Westgate City. Not long after, I discovered I was pregnant. I agonized for a long time over whether to keep the baby. I confessed to George and Eleanor, and they cried, apologizing to me, and quickly booked me an abortion. However, after examination, the doctor advised us to consider it carefully. My constitution was special, and an abortion would cause significant damage to my body, possibly preventing me from having children in the future. I thought perhaps it was destiny. What an ironic twist of fate that I was pregnant with Julian's child. I feared he would mock me mercilessly if he ever found out. After Lily was born, I quickly immersed myself in work. 5 years flashed by. I never expected to reunite with Julian in such an absurd situation. In the hotel room, Julian was sitting on the sofa just as he had 5 years ago, and I stood before him, filled with anxiety. "You know everything," I said. He raised a hand to loosen his tie, countering, "Know what? That you secretly had a child behind my back. Or that you're marrying another man tomorrow." I hastily defended myself. "That's my child. And besides, that wedding's off now." He scoffed. "If I hadn't arrived in time, my Lily would probably be calling someone else dad soon, wouldn't she?" My heart tightened. I heard Julian was unmarried, and he couldn't stop talking about Lily. Was he going to fight me for custody? "Julian, Lily is solely mine. It has nothing to do with you. I don't mean to cause you trouble." He suddenly stood up and approached me. "You're so eager to draw a line between us." I involuntarily backed away until my back hit the wall. His breath brushed against my head. Our posture at that moment was incredibly intimate. I didn't dare look at him, keeping my gaze on my toes. He let out a soft sigh, his tone filled with an indescribable fondness. "Grace, isn't it time you gave me a title?" I looked up at him abruptly. His expression was serious. He wasn't joking. Julian was a prominent figure in Westgate City, unapproachable. A man like him could simply beckon, and he would have no shortage of socialites and heiresses around him. Our family standing at Evergreen had long since declined, so even if he wanted revenge, he wouldn't need to take this route. Thinking this, I tentatively asked, "Our families have a feud. You remember that, don't you?" He strolled back to the sofa, sat down and replied calmly, "I remember. You remember, and you still say things like that." I truly couldn't understand his way of thinking. Back then, his father was extremely deferential to my father, and even he suffered humiliation in my presence. Later, when my father's influence waned, his father turned around and betrayed mine, taking him to the city's elite circles. In Westgate City, after Julian took control, the Vance family gradually rose to prominence. Our two families were truly not suited to be intertwined. So what? I widened my eyes in astonishment. Our two families don't have a blood feud. In business, there are no eternal enemies. His tone was calm. "I bullied you when we were kids. I even threw away your mother's keepsake. You secretly found it and put it back on my doorstep, didn't you?" He glanced at me with a smile. He finished, sounding a little helpless. "You said all this. Are you trying to find a reason not to marry me?" I stammered. "That's not what I mean." "Then you want to marry me? Can I have some time to think about it?" "Sure, but I don't have much patience." I went home in a daze. Lily was already awake, blinking her big eyes and asking, "Mommy, are you getting married tomorrow?" I stroked her little face and said, "Not anymore." Her eyes lit up and she sat up, rushing into my arms. I was a little startled and after a thought asked, "You don't like Uncle?" She carefully nodded. "I was afraid you'd be upset before, so I didn't say anything." I sighed softly. Children often have a keen intuition. After tucking her back to sleep, I went to confess to George and Eleanor. My parents harshly criticized Marcus and Sarah, then said that they had forced me into this alliance for Evergreen's sake. I knew this matter wouldn't just be brushed aside, but I hadn't expected the Hayes family to be so shameless. Early in the morning, the phone call from the Hayes family came through. Mrs. Marcus was blunt on the other end. "Grace, if Marcus did anything wrong, you could have said something. Did you really need to have your friend beat him like that? Don't forget, it was your family who begged the matchmaker for this arrangement. I heard from Marcus that you're not going through with the wedding. It doesn't bother us. Marcus is young and successful. He'll have no trouble finding a partner, but I should remind you, dear, you're not getting any younger, and with a child of uncertain origin, opportunities like this don't come around often." Her words were harsh. I listened quietly, then replied with composure, "And please ask Marcus what he did. The entire city's elite circles know about it. I don't want to stand in the way of true love. I can only blame my own poor judgment. Maya's my honey and you don't need to worry about her." Pulling off the wedding was a mutual decision. Out of respect for our past connections, I don't wish for things to get ugly. Let's part ways amicably. Mrs. Marcus was silent for a few seconds on the other end, then scoffed. "Grace, can you afford the consequences of this stunt you're pulling?" I gripped my phone, unable to respond for a moment. As she said, canceling the alliance with Hayes would mean Evergreen losing an important partner, but recalling those videos and photos from yesterday made my scalp crawl. I could forego happiness, but my Lily absolutely could not have a father like that. "Grace, you're so stubborn. I wonder who in Newport City would ever marry you now." With that, Mrs. Marcus hung up. Julian's image suddenly flashed in my mind. Newport City might be out, but there was a suitor from Westgate City. Though I wasn't clear on Julian's intentions, if he dared to marry me, I dared to marry him. At the very least, he would truly care for Lily. Footsteps sounded. Sarah walked in from the doorway and met my gaze, her expression nonchalant. "Don't you have anything to say to me?" I asked her. She scoffed. "Say what? That I arranged for the videos and photos to be sent?" "Grace, don't be sad. I just had to tempt Marcus a little and he came running. Think of it as me clearing the path for you. After all, I'm your best friend. Why would you do this? I thought you'd want me to be happy." She laughed. "The happier you were, the more pathetic I seemed. From childhood, I was never worse than you in anything except my background. That I could old shoes. I had to rely on myself to forge a future." Sarah's chest heaved. I looked at her. She was still so beautiful yet so unfamiliar. At this point, it was effectively a breakup of our friendship. She went to her room to pack, and soon after, she hurried away with her suitcase. Evergreen called to inform me that Hayes had canceled all upcoming collaborations. I thought for a moment, then sent Julian a WhatsApp message telling him I agreed to marry him. His phone rang the next second, and his lazy voice came through. "Wait for me. I'm 10 minutes from your house." I secretly marveled at how precise he was, likely having prepared in advance. I also worried if George would kick him out. He arrived quickly. I thought he'd come alone, but he made quite a grand entrance. A group of people followed him, carrying piles of things into the house, as if he genuinely intended to marry me. Everyone in my family was stunned. Julian acted as if nothing was amiss, smiling slightly, his tone polite. "Uncle, Aunt, hello, I'm Julian. I apologize for this unannounced visit today. I brought some gifts for you both, and I hope you like them." After explaining his intentions, George snorted heavily, then turned to me and asked, "Grace, are you really going to marry him?" I suddenly calmed my breathing, trying to appear sincere. "Yes, George. This is all my fault. I've always liked him, but I was afraid you wouldn't accept it, so I never dared to say anything. 5 years ago, when I went to Westgate City to seek investment, it was he who helped us. And Lily, she was conceived." "Then what?" George shot up from his seat. "Pressed on. Later, due to the relationship between our two families, Julian and I lost contact. I never expected Marcus to treat me that way. Last night, he also helped me teach Marcus a lesson. George, Eleanor, I truly love him. Please give us your blessing." Throughout this, Julian's gaze remained on me. George ignored me and stared at Julian, asking, "What are your thoughts?" Julian turned around and smiled faintly. "Being able to marry Grace is the greatest blessing of my life. And your father, what does he think?" Julian paused for a moment, then replied, "I told him before I left Westgate City, and he fully supports it. He also said that the old animosities belong to the older generation, and there's no need for the next generation to suffer because of them." George snorted. Non-committal. Just like that, we successfully deceived George and Eleanor. My parents' idea was to get legally married first but postpone the wedding itself, as it wasn't appropriate to make a spectacle so soon after the incident. Eleanor called everyone for dinner. Just then, Lily ran out of her room, pointed at Julian, and cried out, "You bad man. Why are you only coming to find Mommy and Sweetie now? I don't want you to be my daddy." After saying that, she ran towards the garden, and I rushed after her. Lily sat on the lawn, covering her face and crying. I looked at her small, trembling figure and felt a pang of sorrow. "Don't cry, honey. Daddy didn't mean it. He didn't know he had such a cute sweetie before. Daddy and Mommy will both be here for you now. Do you like Daddy?" Lily stopped crying, sniffled, and after a moment's thought, nodded seriously. "Mommy, Daddy looks so tall. If I rode on his shoulders, I could see really far. Couldn't I?" I playfully poked her nose, smiling at her cleverness. Just then, a pair of large hands lifted her from the ground. Julian had arrived at some point. He put Lily on his shoulders, smiling gently. "Why don't you try it and see?" Father and daughter played joyfully in the garden all afternoon. I had never seen Julian like this. He had been taciturn and aloof since childhood, and after entering the business world, he became even more calculating. Even marriage for him was a blatant exchange of interests. Only when he was with Lily did he become as open and cheerful as a true father. It was also fortunate to have Lily, so there wasn't just business between us. During dinner, George told him earnestly, "Grace likes you. I can see that. If you're a man, don't play games with her feelings." He nodded gravely. "George, don't worry. I'll take good care of her." In that moment, his expression was so sincere that even I almost believed he truly loved me. Soon after dinner, Lily wanted to go to bed, and she insisted that Julian tuck her in. Julian, ever obliging, carried her to her room. When he tiptoed out, George and Eleanor had already gone to bed. I sat in the living room waiting for him. His smile slowly faded as he walked over and asked me, "Why the long face? You put on a good act today, didn't you?" I gave a self-deprecating smile. "Same to you. You can give me what I want and I can give you what you want. A win-win collaboration is good enough." He sat down very close to me. I instinctively tried to move further away, but he suddenly leaned in, his tone familiar and a little teasing. Then tell me, what do I want? Actually, I hadn't really thought about that question, but the most likely possibility was obvious. In any case, being a business couple was better than battling it out in court over custody. I frowned, covering his steadily approaching face. I can't read your mind. He persistently leaned against my shoulder, letting out a soft, playful chuckle and sighed lightly. I knew it. You're heartless. I didn't want to engage in a pointless verbal spat with him, so I pushed him away, pointed him toward the guest room and hurried upstairs. A few days later, Julian and I got our marriage certificate. He generously introduced several reputable business partners to Evergreen. Then he decided to move into my house and stayed, saying with a completely straight face, I'm your husband. Isn't it perfectly normal for me to live here? George and Eleanor were thrilled for us to spend more time together, and gave their enthusiastic approval. Lily, even more delighted, wanted her daddy to play with her all day. Only I harbored a hidden bitterness. Sometimes, watching the father and daughter playing, I vaguely wished we were truly in love. Misfortune always strikes unexpectedly. One day, Lily was late returning from preschool. When I rushed over to inquire, I learned her paternal grandfather had picked her up. Blood rushed to my head. I dreaded what Julian's father might do. Julian was abroad at the time, so I didn't notify George and Eleanor. I quickly called him, my hands and voice trembling. Fortunately, he answered quickly, reassuring me on the phone not to panic. He said his father would definitely contact me, and if he did, I should inform him immediately. My mind was blank at that moment, but hearing his voice inexplicably calmed me. Shortly after hanging up with him, an unknown number called. Henry's voice came through, tinged with amusement. Grace, it's been a long time. Uncle wants to see you. Faintly, I heard Lily crying. My heart tightened and I agreed. In a private booth at a cafe, Henry slowly poured me tea, inviting me to taste it. I asked directly, "Where's my Lily?" He smiled. "Don't worry. I sent my subordinates to take her to play. I'm her grandfather. I wouldn't harm my own granddaughter, would I?" I also smiled. "You never know. After all, Uncle, you're a man who harmed even his own mentor." Seeing his face, I recalled the year George suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and was hospitalized, barely surviving. Even after recovering, he could no longer participate in Evergreen operations. I had supported the immense Evergreen alone, step by agonizing step. Henry's face darkened. He slammed the teacup down, splashing a few drops of tea. "It's been years and you're still so brazen. No wonder the Hayes family didn't want you." I retorted without backing down. "Uncle, before you lecture me, please understand you're not my father. Stop trying to control me with that patronizing tone." Henry snorted coldly. "Why?" His expression was utterly venomous. "Oh, really? You even disrespect your elders. Any family that marries you would truly be cursed for generations." I laughed aloud. "Is that so? Well, that's great. I forgot to tell you, your son Julian and I just got our marriage certificate." "What did you say?" He was wide-eyed. Compared to his emotional outburst, I remained indifferent. He let out a heavy sigh before saying, "My son, he's completely under your spell. But let me tell you clearly, I will not support you too." I took a sip of tea unflustered. "Do you think I care?" "Uncle, as long as I can keep your son dangling, what can't he give me? Everything you took from my family before, I'll get it back twofold." He chuckled softly, then suddenly took out his phone and placed it on the table, saying to the person on the other end, "Julian, you heard that, didn't you? This woman doesn't love you at all. You're just blind, George." Julian interrupted him. "I know exactly what I'm doing." A massive sound of artillery fire erupted, followed by screams and the sounds of people running. Total chaos. "Julian! Julian!" Henry called out repeatedly, but the call was cut off. War broke out in the country where Julian was, and his fate was unknown. Henry, too distraught to argue with me, left in a daze, handing Lily back to me before he went. Holding my body trembled uncontrollably. "Julian, would you die?" I left the house in a daze. Memories of Julian from childhood continuously flashed through my mind. A sharp ringing erupted in my ears. I put Lily down and covered my head in agony. Lily was crying, bewildered. I reached out to wipe her tears, and as I did, I felt my own face moist. Tears fell one after another onto my arm. News of Julian's disappearance quickly spread across the media. Henry rushed back to Westgate City, and Evergreen also suffered considerable impact due to its collaboration with the Vance. While processing official business in the office, I received a call from the city. The caller informed me that Julian had a trust fund and I was the beneficiary. Some documents required my signature, and he would be coming to Newport City to see me soon. That day, calls came in one after another. Only then did I realize that Julian had transferred all his assets to me in various ways before coming to Newport City. Should anything happen to him, it would immediately take effect. But I couldn't feel happy at all. Every night before bed, Lily would ask me when Daddy was coming back. He had promised to bring her toys. Swallowing the bitterness in my heart, I told Lily it would be very soon. I tossed and turned sleeplessly that night. I had read the news countless times. There was no update. When I finally drifted into sleep, my dreams were filled with Julian. The last scene was him, his face covered in blood, telling me he loved me. I woke up with the first light of dawn. I covered my face, weeping silently. Unable to sleep, I went to a quiet chapel. The scent of candles and old wood calmed my heart. Kneeling before the main hall, I devoutly bowed my head, praying over and over again for Julian's safe return. If he could just come back, I would tell him that I didn't actually hate him and he hadn't done anything wrong. After descending the mountain, I received a call from my assistant informing me that Evergreen stocks were under hostile acquisition. I rushed back to the office where Marcus was waiting, slowly sipping tea. He raised an eyebrow, unable to conceal his triumphant expression. "Grace, it doesn't feel good to be acquired, does it? At this rate, by the time the market closes tomorrow, Evergreen's major shareholder will change hands." I asked coldly, "Was it your doing?" He nodded arrogantly, eyes narrowed in a smile. "You think you're the only one with backing? You should know that Julian has made many enemies with his ruthless decisions in Westgate City over the years." Noticing the exhaustion on my face, he too took off. Ty continued, "It looks like you truly love Julian, don't you? But fate is unknown now. Who else can support you? You're just a woman. You can't accomplish anything. Grace, I advise you to surrender now." I smiled. "Cut the chatter. How about we discuss your terms?" He looked me up and down with ill intent. "Spend a night with me, and if I'm satisfied, I'll consider letting you off the hook." I gave him a cold look, then grabbed the tea and splashed it all over his face. "Marcus, do you think I, Grace, have made it this far just by relying on men?" He became enraged, pointing at me and yelling, "Grace, you just wait. I'm going to completely destroy Evergreen this time. Fine, I'll see this through to the end. This is your lesson for today. Never underestimate a woman." Marcus stormed off in a rage, but I grew uneasy. This hostile takeover was aggressive, and I needed to find a solid, reliable ally quickly to gain an advantage in equity. I called several long-term partners, but they all politely declined. In the middle of the night, I received a call from Henry. His tone was unpleasant. "Grace, it doesn't feel good to be under hostile acquisition, does it? If you're just calling to gloat, then you can hang up. I'd love to, but Julian is determined to help you. He already saw the risk of Evergreen being acquired maliciously, and he gave instructions beforehand. Just wait. The Vance's funds will enter the market tomorrow." He rambled on about many other things, but I didn't take any of it in. I just kept thinking, "Julian, how many things have you done behind my back?" Finally I asked, "Is there any news of him?" Regardless of the old animosity between the Grace and Vance families, at this moment, the hearts of a wife and a mother longing for her husband and son were in sync. Henry sighed deeply on the other end of the line. "All communications are down. We can't reach him." With the Vance's entry, the cost of the acquisition was continually driven up. Ultimately, Marcus was defeated. He called me, his voice full of resentment. "Grace, I can't believe Julian could arrange everything so meticulously. Even after he died, I truly underestimated him." I immediately became furious, questioning sharply, "Who said he died?" "Marcus, say that again." He probably hadn't heard me use that tone before. He muttered "crazy" under his breath, then hung up. I collapsed into my chair, gasping for breath. A week passed and there was still no news of Julian. A lawyer from Westgate City came to see me to sign the trust fund documents. After I signed, he joked, "You're even more remarkable in person, Miss Grace. I've long wanted to see who this person Julian couldn't forget really was." I was slightly stunned. He continued, smiling as he recounted a few things. He said that when I came to Westgate City 5 years ago, Julian had noticed me, but he deliberately chose to help me in a way most disliked by women. Later, no matter how busy he was, he would occasionally come to Newport City to quietly check on me. As for Lily, he had known about her for a long time, but back then, he was not yet fully established. Considering the animosity between our families, he only dared to watch from the sidelines, unable to do anything. It wasn't until he learned I was about to have a whirlwind marriage with another man that he anxiously flew to Newport City overnight. I thought, what an ironic twist of fate that I learned all this at precisely this moment. Forcing out a difficult smile, I still couldn't help but feel my eyes welling up. Just then the secretary rushed in looking panicked. "Bad news. Miss Sarah took Lily to the company rooftop." I was startled, my body trembling. I stumbled as I ran to the rooftop. Sarah stood at the rooftop ledge with my Lily, her expression manic. She had lost a lot of weight since I last saw her, her eyes sunken with dark circles beneath them. She was still wearing a hospital gown, clearly having snuck out of the hospital. She screamed at me, "Grace, my happiness is gone. Why should you be happy? I'll destroy your honey and you'll go to hell with me." Lily, under her control, cried in terror, "Mommy, save me." Tears streaming down my face, I clasped my hands together, pleading, "Sarah, don't do anything rash. Let go of my Lily, and I'll agree to anything you want." She cried and laughed simultaneously. "Grace, what can you give me? I stole your fiancé, but I couldn't keep him. I couldn't even keep my baby." I spoke softly, trying to comfort her as I cautiously approached. "Sarah, this isn't your fault. Come down and I'll help you, okay?" Sarah shrieked, "Don't come any closer. It's all you, Grace. It's all your fault." Her expression was resentful, completely unraveling. "I'll kill your Lily. I want you to live in pain for the rest of your life." With that, she tilted backward with my Lily, her entire body leaning over the edge. I let out a heartbreaking scream. A figure swiftly darted out. Before I could react, he had firmly grabbed Lily's arm. The fire department and police had arrived, and everyone worked together to pull them both up. Lily, terrified, flung herself into his arms, sobbing, "Daddy, you're back." I wiped my eyes, gazing at the figure holding Lily, confirming it wasn't a dream. He had truly returned. After the crowd dispersed, Lily was still nestled in his arms. He carried Lily towards me, then put his arm around me, saying in a deep voice, "I'm back, Grace." Lily chuckled through her tears. "Mommy, your face was all splotchy and tear-streaked too." I blinked, a choked laugh escaping through my tears. The wind was strong on the rooftop that day. Leaning against him, listening to his clear, strong heartbeat, my suspended heart finally found peace. All the underlying currents settled with Julian's return. I couldn't help but wonder how much extraordinary effort he had put in to reach such a position. I felt a pang of sorrow and a surge of admiration. Sarah was sent to a psychiatric hospital. Hayes key personnel faced legal repercussions for their illicit activities. Life returned to a calm routine filled with happiness. I continued to base myself in Newport City, managing Evergreen diligently. Julian commuted between 2 cities for me, making it widely known in the city's elite circles, earning him the title of the ultimate devoted husband. I once complained to him that people would think I was a shrew. He dismissed it. Why would they? They're just incredibly jealous. Henry and I still had our disagreements, but fortunately we lived far apart, only seeing each other a few times a year so we could tolerate each other. It was George during our New Year's Eve family dinner who pulled Julian aside for a drink, seemingly having buried their old grievances. The second year of our marriage, Julian insisted on taking me on vacation. As soon as the plane landed, I discovered he had rented out the entire island. He took my hand and said, "Grace, let's have a wedding." On our wedding day, I walked slowly toward him in my custom-designed wedding gown. The smiling gazes of my parents, relatives, and friends rested on me. Julian, dressed immaculately in a suit, was exceptionally handsome. The azure sea and clear blue sky, everything was perfect. A long journey lay ahead, and he stood right there at its heart.